Crosstown Baseball Show, a very exciting edition of the show as we are finally talking about spring training as it's coming up here in a few days. And I wouldn't like to talk about spring training with anyone other than my friend, Anthony Romanelli. Romanelli, how are you?
I'm great. Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And many of you are probably, if you're on YouTube watching us, notice that I'm in a different locale today. I'm actually fittingly down in Florida right now visiting family. Obviously, Florida's home to half of the league for spring training, so pretty timely. Romanelli, if you had to really pick between going to Florida, I mean, don't even think about Cubs Sox, just in general. Florida, Arizona, which one would you pick?
For spring training?
I would say let's do 4 spring training and then just general vacation.
I've had the good fortune of already having been to Arizona for spring training. But to be honest, I would prefer to be in Florida because there's water. To then just get to the ocean or a lake. No, I'm kidding. To get to the ocean would be nice, just to get to water. Tired of Chicago, would love to move, but I have a few years to wait. So yeah, I would definitely like to be in Florida right now.
Awesome. Well, I could tell you what, MLB teams are heading to Florida and heading to Arizona here soon. Spring training starts with pitchers and catchers this Wednesday, the 15th, and then it looks like position players will be heading over full squad for February 20th, and then the first games Romanelli start on the 25th. How are you feeling now that right at the cusp of spring training here?
Great, because we are in the fake part of spring is coming here in Chicago. It is almost 50 degrees. So this is Mother Nature providing the illusion that it's going to be 72 and sunny on opening day. You and I both know it's going to be like 24 degrees and wind coming off the lake. And yeah, no, this is all a farce. But the farce is allowing me to feel that much more excited, to be completely honest.
I'm right there with you. I think spring training, when spring training comes and we get close to pitchers and catchers, I don't know that there's many better times of the year, at least for me personally. People, friends, family will always tell me, like, Anthony, you are a little more chipper this time of the year as we get to spring training. And it's just, it has that real effect on me.
It's to me, it's the same as December 1st for kids when they start getting like legitimately super excited for Christmas. My personal Christmas is opening day. I have said that forever. And this feels like December 1st to me. Like, okay, March is only a month away. It's 6 weeks. Opening day is 6 weeks. It's like if we put on the light here in Chicago, it would be, 24/7 Christmas music. So we need to find a 24/7 sport. That's what we could do. A 24/7 sports station specifically related to baseball for the 6 weeks prior to baseball.
Oof. I don't know how to get anything else done.
Right? All we would need is like $10 million and a whole bunch of sponsors.
Oh, yeah. Let's get right on that.
And we'd be fine.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, folks, we're really excited to continue this year's shows, getting right into spring training. We spent the last 3 weeks going over each of the divisions and our division previews, and now we're going to make a pivot talking about spring training really for the next couple weeks here as pitchers and catchers report here on Wednesday. I think, Romanelli, you and I have talked a lot about over the last several weeks all of the many questions, I suppose, going into the season for both the Cubs and the Sox. This really is a telltale season for both teams. And I think it was fitting today, before we even have pitchers and catchers report on the 15th, to talk about what we're expecting this spring. And each of us do have 3 spring training predictions for our teams. And so I really just want to dive into it. I think we'll have some good conversations around some of our predictions. So I'll start with you, Romanelli. Let's go kind of round robin back and forth. Sure. Starting with you, what's your first kind of prediction for the Cubs here in spring training?
I have the feeling that Patrick Wisdom, and I hope I'm wrong, is going to go the way of David Bodie and kind of fall off the planet. And I hope not. But if he does, I think Morel wins the starting job at third base he has become a spark for that team. He's young, he's energetic, he's smart. I believe that with the right leadership and the right coaching around him, I think he's got a great upside. And again, I could be completely wrong, and Wisdom knocks the ball out of the park, and then we have no idea what to do with Morel, which is bothersome to me, actually, because that kid, I don't want him sitting, and I don't want him to be every fourth or fifth day to take Wisdom's place at third base while Wisdom continues to strike out at a god awful pace. So I'm hopeful that he has a fantastic spring training, and actually wins the job from Wisdom and put Wisdom as your DH.
That's so two things there. That's very interesting. Is number one, with Wisdom, I think where the question marks lie, kind of what you're getting to is you can count on him striking out, but because he strikes out at such a high rate, he's got to be there with the power. And if that power dips even a little bit, he becomes, I don't want to use this word, I mean, he really does become worthless as an everyday player. If he's not hitting homers, he's not going to give you 25, 30 home runs, and he strikes out all that much, low on base percentage, he can find himself out of a job real quick.
I agree. I think, I actually had two or three additional spring training thoughts after I sent you mine, and maybe we'll get to them, maybe not. If not, I can table them for next week. But
sure.
My first one is Morel at third base because Wisdom tanks.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
go ahead.
With Chris though, I mean, so here's kind of, I want to get your thoughts on Chris specifically as it relates to everyday play, because the way that he played last year, towards the end of the year, he definitely kind of came back to earth, if you will. But this is an opportunity, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, here in 2023, the Cubs really need to figure out who they have, right? Like, they need to figure out, is Chris Morel the guy, or is he not? And if you're trying to figure that out, you let him play every day.
Right. Yep. I think everybody, and I've mentioned this in the past, I think everybody on the Cubs who has potential, one way or the other, either positive or negative, is on a very short leash because, and I'm gonna start with the top, because if Ross doesn't get the team to 500, he's gone the following year. I'm telling you, he's got too much talent. You've got Mervis, who is going to blow the team out of the water once he shows up. And I'll talk about more about that next week. But I think Wisdom's going to be on a short leash. I think because of that alone, I think Ross will make a mistake if he is like, he'll get there. He'll get there. No, like you said, you've got to find out who you have. Let Morel play every day, and let Wisdom DH.
Well, Morel does have a lot of versatility. He can play multiple spots. I kind of pulled up what Fangraphs projects for both of them in 23, and it looks like Fangraphs has projected for Morel playing 120 games, an average of 230, slugging of 412, and then it looks like they had him. I want to make sure I get this right. I want to look at home runs and RBIs for a moment. It looks like they have Chris Morel with 19 homers. Which actually matches Cody Bellinger's projection of 19 homers. And then if you go to Patrick Wisdom, they have Patrick Wisdom slotted at a 17 home runs in 23, but a 208 average and a 293 on base. So I'll tell you what, like, again, I think Fangraphs here has Wisdom really banking on home runs, but if you're not getting the home runs, that's all you're going to get from him.
Yep, and he'll be gone. He will be. He'll be gone at the trade deadline. He'll be benched. Something. I don't know. I just don't know. So if we're going back and forth, it's your turn.
Oh, it is my turn. Yes, you're right. So here's what I'll say. I'm going to start out with one that is, of course, not as positive and chipper, but let's just operate in the space that we're in right now of reality with the White Sox. I do, unfortunately. I want to have my first prediction be about Mike Clevenger, and I do predict that sometime in spring training. I know. I think sometime in spring training, it may be day one when pitchers and catchers report. It may be when games start. But I do think that the White Sox will place Mike Clevenger on administrative leave. Now, for those of you who remember all of the mess with Trevor Bauer and the Dodgers, what they did was something similar. They put Trevor Bauer on administrative leave to let the investigation play out. It didn't really act until they heard from the league at the conclusion of that investigation. Now, what I am being very sensitive to the fact that, if you think about where this team's at right now, they have a new manager in Pedro Grifol, that new coaching staff. They're trying to, in spring this year, set up what that clubhouse looks like and set up that clubhouse culture. The last thing they need is a distraction. And it is in their best interest to put them on administrative leave out of the gate. Don't even have them around the club, because the last thing this team needs after last season is that big of a distraction.
Completely agree. From day one, he shouldn't be there. They are ultimately. I am currently equating the White Sox to a startup business. Everybody's new. Everybody's got to figure out everybody's good moods, bad moods, who you can talk to when, how, why. Everything is brand new. It's a startup company, and you cannot have a bad egg in a startup company. You can't. And whether he did or didn't do what he did or didn't do, I 100% agree with you. He can't be in that clubhouse on day one. You're distracting from the ultimate goal, which, even though it's 162 days later or 162 games later, once the season begins, until that is completed, until the entire investigation is completed, he can't be around, period.
And I often wonder about, I like to put myself in the shoes of a ball player, and I almost want to, I wish, one day we'll have a ball player on here and we'll ask him about these sort of things, but I kind of wonder if you have a guy like that who spring training comes into your clubhouse, like, how do you navigate those conversations, right? Like, if you're a ball player, like, do you just avoid talking about it? Do you ask them about it? It puts everyone else in a really uncomfortable situation, I think.
I think you ask him how he's doing. I think once, like, if he shows up or when he shows up, or that's two separate questions. If he shows up, and if he does, hey, how's it going? You need anything? And you support him because he's still your teammate. It doesn't have to be brought up. And I don't necessarily know that it would, because it will have been covered ad nauseum from everybody on television. So I think as a teammate, you're like, hey, how's it going? You need anything? I'm here if you need me. Let's go play. That's it. I think that's all you can do. Now, if you equate that to Bauer, if I'm not mistaken, nobody's picked Bauer up.
Right.
And if nobody's picked Bauer up, no one's going to touch Clevenger either.
No. Well, that's a really good point. And that is exactly how those conversations should go. I just, at the end of the day, I put this prediction as number one because I feel like they need to get this sorted out before we talk about anything else. And this team should really have it on their priority to figure out what they're doing with Clevenger.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the White Sox are staying silent while the investigation is going on. But behind closed doors, they're not taking it back. There's no way. And I remember saying to you before all this came out, like, I was excited for that pickup. I was legitimately excited for them. I'm like, this is going to be good. They're going to they're going to contend, and they're going to very possibly win the AL Central. And now that's just until he's officially released, it's a black eye.
It is, and I guess it really gives us something additional to talk about, because now in the spring, in the next few weeks, we'll talk about how these rosters are going to be built out, and the Sox now have a glaring hole in that fifth man on the rotation, and could very well be Davis Martin, who kind of put on a strong showing in 2023, but you had Mike Clevenger penciled in, and now that whole calculus changes, and it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. That pencil is broken. You can't even erase it. It's broken.
Cool. Well, that was my Debbie Downer moment. I'll throw it back to you.
Okay. My second prediction is, and it's angering me to no end, because it will negatively, indirectly impact the middle of the season when you're either going to be in the dogfight or out, and it's by not extending Hap and Nico now. You've got it, and the problem is, Jed made it abundantly clear who he is as a leader. In, you were hearing whispers that they were going to extend him. You were hearing conversations went on. I no longer believe that. Spring training starts any day now. There's no talk of anything having happened. Here's why it bothers me. You signed Swanson for 7 years. So you're telling me, and 7 years, okay, so let's say you get 5 solid years out of Swanson, and you get 5 solid years out of Nico. With baseball going back to the original defensive lineup as it should be, you're going to have the best up the middle tandem in all of baseball, if not the best, one of the best, that without question.
Yeah.
So why are you not extending Horner? You and I saw and listened to Hap say that he has figured out how to hit at Wrigley. No single left-handed batter has ever hit 40 home runs to right field except, was it Billy Williams?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, one player in the history of that entire stadium. So Hap, being a switch hitter, has figured out, I'm actually better off going to left field. So because he's matured, because he's got bigger, stronger, he's got his gold glove, and I can't believe I'm saying this because 3 years ago, I didn't like Hap because I'm like, he's too small. He's not catching up with the speed of the ball. He's learned, he's grown. He's legitimately in his prime. Give him 5. Give him 5 years. Give him 5 with the 5th being a club option, and do it now. Give Nico 5 with a club option, and then you'll eat the money with Swanson on the end of the 2 years. But you've got 5 years, and if you end up with a solid shortstop, a solid second baseman, Nico's got to be your leadoff hitter. But if you don't extend Hap, and if you don't extend Nico, I'm telling you, that trade deadline and that sad hug that Nico or that Hap and Contreras had near the trade deadline is going to happen all over again. It's going to play mental. What's the expression? Like mental pinball with those guys. It's gonna negatively affect them.
So to clarify, you're saying that you don't think Hap or Horner will be extended before the season starts?
Correct.
Okay, let's just be very clear about something. I think you and I will probably that right. And so what that would be, what would have went wrong there? But 2, like if you get to the trade deadline and you're talking about trading Hap and or Nico Horner, something has gone terribly wrong, and this sets this team back, and they better not get to that point.
And if they get to that point, and I know I'm saying this off the cuff, like that's it, I'm done as a Cubs fan. I'll never be done as a Cubs fan, and I know that. But what that will make me do is not follow the Cubs with the same passion I have in my lifetime. Because you saw when Jim Hendry was trying with the Cubs, excuse me, and he was making a couple moves, you saw him try. And then when he gave up, it was over. And then that, what's his name, Sam Zell came in, and you're like, what the hell is he doing when he owned the Cubs? So if Jed doesn't sign them, if he doesn't, it's going to be the same old Jed, and the same thing's going to happen, and it's all going to be negative. It's going to be that unwritten, or quiet negative vibe, unless they come out of the gate in April and just tear the cover off the ball and everything else. I'm telling you.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're feeling sour, we'll take some converts over here. I'll do my little speech, my little. Have you heard about the Church of Jerry Reinsdorf? We'll welcome you in. It'll be fine.
Right. So that's mine. That is my second one.
Okay. Wow. We're really not giving listeners anything exciting right now.
No, I would say no. I think morale is a positive.
That's a positive.
No, I think morale is a positive. And again, let's hope I'm wrong. Let's hope that Morel plays out of his mind. Ross is smart enough to put Wisdom at a DH, and then let's hope I'm wrong again. These are all predictions. Let's hope I'm wrong, and that Hap gets signed and Nico gets signed.
All I know is if either of them get signed, you're going to go nuts.
Oh yeah. If they sign Nico, he's my next jersey. He's the next jersey I'm buying. I'm waiting.
All right. I love that. I am going to move on to my next one, which is definitely more positive, kind of like your Morel one. My second prediction for the White Sox in spring training is I do think Oscar Colas is going to impress. For those of you who don't know, Oscar Colas is top prospect of the White Sox system. He hit very well across 3 levels last year in the minor leagues. I do think that right now in the White Sox brain, he is kind of the de facto penciled in right fielder and will make his debut this season. But I do think he's going to impress in spring. I do think he's going to hit eight spring training home runs. And I think he will be starting in right field on opening day. And what I could tell you is the White Sox, for the longest time, have never had a kind of above average everyday right fielder. I mean, the last one you could probably go back to Avisail Garcia, certainly Jermaine Dye in 2005. That's a long time ago.
That is a long time ago.
I mean, we're talking about people that have just been in and out, no-name guys. So to have a top prospect who could actually be an impact bat, above average defense, I mean, we're seeing all that at the lower level. To have him start opening day, I'm riding high on Colas. I think he's going to actually impress folks on the South Side on opening day.
Yeah, I think he has a definite high potential. I'm excited to see what he can do. I really am.
So if we look at one thing I do like to do is I want to see what his projections are. I don't even think they have his projections. Let me see. Because
he can't shave yet. They can't possibly have his projections.
What I will say is they have him. I mean, Fangraphs is a little weird because sometimes if they don't know if guys are going to be up or not, it looks like they do have a projection for him. Okay, awesome. So his projection for 2023, they have him playing 109 games, 17 home runs, batting .246 with a .415 slugging and a .7 WAR. Now, here's what I'll say about this: is they have him playing 109 games, which is kind of funny because that tells me Fangraphs thinks that he's not going to start opening day and he'll arrive later in the season, which I guess is a possibility. But Gavin Sheets would really have to tear it up in spring training and hitting the cover off the ball, I think, for them to really keep Colas down in the minors.
I would agree. The positive there, the positive spin there is that's still more than half the season at 107 games. Yes. So he's definitely being set up to become an impact.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And I think, when you look at Oscar Colas, and I almost want to pull up his minor league stats across, because like I said, he played 3 levels. He was part of Project Birmingham, where they took basically all the top prospects. The Sox did. They took all their top prospects last year. And for the last month of the season, couple weeks, they put them in the Birmingham Barons organization to play together for a couple weeks, which was pretty outstanding as far as getting your top prospects together and getting them to actually experience the higher levels of the minors together. Yes. But if you're looking at his stats for 2022 across the 3 levels of minor league baseball, I mean, he had .314, 23 home runs, 79 RBIs, and that was in, let's see, do they even have the amount of games here? They don't even have the amount of games, 481 at-bats. I mean, so this is a guy that if you're hitting 23 home runs in the minors across 3 levels, if you have an OPS of almost 900, I mean,
And
this is
you're hitting over 300.
right, right. I mean, you think with any young player, and I don't want to get everyone's hopes up too much, right? There's going to be an adjustment period. Major league pitching is very different. There's no denying that. One thing I don't know if people know a lot about is the Charlotte Knights, the Sox AAA team. They play in Charlotte. That team is notorious for being a very hitter-friendly park. It's actually arguably the most hitter-friendly park in all of AAA. So let's be mindful of that.
Sure.
Having said that, there are true bat-to-ball skills with Colas. And again, like I said, above-average defense, which is something that the Sox just haven't had in right field for years. So I'm really hoping and thinking that, Colas is going to take that right fielder job. And that Gavin Sheets perhaps is either traded or is on the bench as your power left-handed hitter off the bench.
Yeah, I everything sounds good. Everything sounds really, really good there. It's all positive.
I love it. All right, you have looks like one last one here.
I do. I actually think Bellinger is going to hit out of his mind.
Oh.
He's going to become the comeback player of the year.
Really?
And the Cubs will have a decision to make, because you've got PCA in the wings, who we know is coming up. Will he come up this year or next year? If Bellinger becomes the comeback player of the year, then Jed caught the lightning in a bottle he needed. And then the Cubs let him go. Don't you dare fall for I'm going to extend him for 3 more years. Again, if you've got this 5 to 7 year window, at that point, you've got Suzuki, who is in right field, who has enough major league experience as a leader. You've got Happ in left field, who is a leader. You've got Swanson on the at shortstop, who is a leader. So you're going to build PCA up when he comes up to play center field, and have those conversations with Suzuki and have those conversations with Happ. And let's not forget about Mervis. I haven't even talked about him. I'm going to talk about him next week. There's some serious potential, but I think Bellinger, the whole fresh start thing, I think he's going to hit out of his mind, and he'll end up becoming the comeback player of the year.
Wow. So I struggle with Bellinger. I struggle with what the path forward is with him and the Cubs, because
it's 1 year.
It is 1 year, but I'm like you. I'm thinking about, if he is performing at that high of a level, as you say, that means I think the Cubs are winning more games than we all anticipated, which is great. But then that trade deadline becomes a really tough conversation. I mean, I look at his contract now. I mean, the guy's making $17.5 million in 1 year, and that was what he got on the market. If he goes out and crushes the ball and has a comeback season, easily making $25 million at least on the market next year. So are the Cubs even going to throw $25 million his way for 4 or 5 years? I don't think so.
No. He is nothing more than a stopgap. He's nothing more than a stopgap player. Because if you dare fill or pay him that money, I'm going to show you something that's going to, again, I go back to things that piss me off purposefully, because I said it goes back to the baseball gods. If we look right here, is that forward or backward to you?
No, that's forward. Yeah, I see that.
Okay, look at number 4.
Those cards, man. That's just gonna stick in your craw the whole season.
This came out today. I don't see the Cubs anywhere on here.
No.
I don't see the White Sox anywhere on here.
Quite frankly, I'm very surprised that the Cardinals are ahead of some of those other teams.
I don't disagree with you. I'm shocked that they're ahead of the Padres. I'm shocked that they're ahead of the Dodgers. I think that is insane. I think you've got 1, 2, and 3 correct.
Yeah.
But I just don't see I don't know. I don't see the Cubs doing what they need to unless everything falls in. If Bellinger hits out of his mind, and you've still got Hendricks, who it won't be starting opening day. I still say it's Green or Justin. Is it Green? Jesus.
Justin Steele.
Steele. Jesus. Where did I get Green from? I said this before. Steele starts. Steele becomes your number one. Only he and Lester are the two only left-handed pitchers in the history of Wrigley to have an ERA under 3. Justin Steele's your number one. Period. I don't care what anybody says.
You're really high on him. He's your guy.
He is. Yep.
Yep. If I'm you, then I'm hoping Bellinger just kills it in the first half. They flip him at the deadline for some talent. I mean that's the ideal outcome, I think.
I would think so too. If he's killing it at the half and the Cubs are not in it, which is exactly what we both see, then go get some people for him. I don't know where you go or to whom at this point anyway. But yeah, let him tear the cover off the ball and see what happens. This isn't a prediction. This is more of a hope. I'm hoping, and I mentioned this to you before, about Suzuki. I would like to see a little bit more production out of him. When you get, once the United States started bringing Japanese players over, every one of them was going to be the next Ichiro, and it hasn't panned out that way. So we'll see.
Do you remember Kosuke Fukudome?
Oh God, yeah.
And I think it was that first game, opening day against Milwaukee. He had that game, that leading home run in right field.
Yep, I can still see it. And then he was so new, and you saw his last name on the back of a jersey, and you're like, that's a lot of swearing.
Yeah.
Like I remember teachers were like, that kid can't wear that jersey. What is that? They're swearing. I'm like, no.
Come on. Yeah, relax.
I'm not joking.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so we'll see. But I'm hoping. I mean, he fits in the clubhouse. Everybody likes him. Now I'm hoping to get a little bit more production out of him. Hit 275, hit 5 to 7, maybe 10 more home runs. But again, he has the stereotypical left-handed pullers swing to right field. And if Hap has learned and has told them that, and if they learn how to hit the other way, they'll be okay. I'm not asking every one of them to turn into Rod Carew or Suzuki and just find the hole and ground ball up the middle. Because if you've got the power, use it like Hap did to find the gaps. And if you hit the ball square, then it's going to go. But hit the ball to find the gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Suzuki is definitely one of those people that I honestly tend to forget about. He's one of those, I think, X factors for this season for the Cubs. But I'm looking at these projections for 23 from Fangraphs, and I'm just kind of going through the list of. I'm going to focus on home runs for a second. They have down this lineup for home run projections: Dansby 23, Hap 22, Suzuki 26. Bellinger, 19. Morel, 19. Imagine if Cody Bellinger and Morel get in the 20s. You would have 5 guys on that roster, if all goes well with these projections, hitting 20-plus home runs. That puts you in a really good spot.
That puts you in a good spot. The pickup of the Yankee pitcher puts you in a good spot. Another prediction that I came up with that if Ross is smart, he makes Adbert Alzolay their closer. He's good, he's good for 40-plus closes a year. He is. He can do it. You make him their closer. You've got the infield that you have. You've got at least 2, maybe 3 solid pitchers. Again, are they going to compete with the list that I just showed you? I don't know.
Right.
However, could they could be at the bottom of that top 10 list. Could they Could they squeak in? We talked about this. The only way they make it is if they win the division, because the National League West and East is way too strong. So everything's got to fall into place.
I suppose we'll see. I will wrap up our predictions with my last Sox prediction. You know, I really focused on a moment ago Oscar Colas filling the gap in right field, and another gap that this White Sox team has is at second base. It seems to be another kind of black hole on this team. I mean, they had, of course, Nick Madrigal, top draft pick, traded to the Cubs as part of the Craig Kimbrell trade a couple years ago.
Do you want him back? Do you want him back?
No, that's okay. You can keep him. Thanks. That's very generous of you.
He won't get much He won't get much playing time with the Cubs. So
he won't. He won't. And quite frankly, like, he's one of those guys. Like, again, good back to ball skills. He can hit the ball when he's on, and his defense is all right. But the baseball smarts, like the baseball IQ, just doesn't seem to be there. He gets hurt too much, making dumb plays, not thinking straight. I'm fine. Thanks.
Fair enough.
But
really feel
right. You're selling me basically a bag of balls. So second base for the Cubs. Second base for the Sox. What does this look like in 2023? I do think that, you know, right now you look at the options that the Sox have for second base. They obviously didn't reinforce really at all over the offseason, so they're leaving it to Romy Gonzalez and Lenyn Sosa, both guys that, you know, are from the minors last year. Romy has the most MLB playing time of both of these players. Leury Garcia, the expectation is he is going to be a backup utility guy. He won't start every day at second base. So to me, that means that Lenyn Sosa and Romy Gonzalez are going to be battling out for this spot. And my prediction is that Romy Gonzalez is going to kind of impress people and surprise people with the bat. And he's going to win that second base job. Now, he is not going to rip the cover off the ball. He's not going to hit home runs. He is one of those guys where he's going to find a hole. He's going to find a gap, ground ball, hard ground ball, line drive all day long. And quite frankly, that's all I want of the second baseman, because in a perfect world, we talk about Luis Robert, Eloy, Grandal, Moncada, guys who did not perform last year. If they're all performing where they need to perform, I don't need a second baseman crushing homers. I just need a second baseman that gets on base and has good defense. That's all I care about. And I think Romy could be that guy.
I do too. I think he's your starting second baseman.
Let's go ahead and see one thing that I get nervous about, but again, it's just projections from Fangraphs. Looks like the projections for Roby for 23 are 9 homers, batting .220, on base of .274, slugging of .372. That progression is rough. Now, they also project him that's over 66 games. Now, I think they're guessing Romy's not the starting second baseman every day. I would be, but still, if you project that out, I'm expecting more than that. I'm expecting you to get on base a lot more than that. I'm expecting you to have a higher average than .220. You better be, if you're not hitting homers and you're not contributing anything else, driving runners in, I need you batting at least .260, at least.
Agreed. Completely agree. Yeah, those are lower than I expected.
Yeah, like I said, I think that may be part of their calculation because they only have him projected for 66 games. I will say this, though, and this goes for both the Cubs and the Sox. You never know what random signings happen during the spring. You never know what folks sign to a minor league deal in the spring. Remember, there's still names out there that have yet to sign, and we're 3 days away from pitchers and catchers. So I do think that both teams could be doing some moves early on in the spring, which reminds me, Romanelli wanted to bring it up before we forgot. The Cubs did reinforce their bullpen with Michael Fulmer.
They did. If I remember what I posted earlier was I'm hopefully optimistic. He's got a good arm. He'll give you the innings. He'll definitely give you good innings. Maybe he's that middle relief, 4 through 6 if a Cub has a rough start, or he becomes a specialist like a 7-8 specialist. He's definitely strong enough. I don't think that was a bad pickup, actually.
No, I don't either. I mean, Michael Fulmer was a guy who Definitely started off with he was drafted as a starting pitcher, kind of a top prospect. Started with the Detroit Tigers back in 2016. Was his first full year, and he in his first couple seasons, had 11 wins, 10 wins. Had a solid ERA of anywhere between kind of 306, kind of a 390 in that range. But as things progressed, he really just lost it. The ERA fell off the table. I mean, he had over 4 ERAs. In 2020, he had an almost 9 ERA. So he's been trying to kind of figure it out. And it seems like the move to the bullpen has helped to some degree. He is still kind of floating around, his projection still around a 4 ERA. But if you're giving me, I don't know, 60, 70 innings out of the bullpen and you have a 4 ERA, I mean, with all the other options the Cubs have right now, I think I'll take that for some consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the middle inning, the guy who can eat up the middle innings, become that seventh inning specialist if the Cubs have a lead. I'm okay with that.
Absolutely. So those are our predictions. We're going to have a lot more, as we get into spring here. This is kind of a shorter prediction show that we have because we have no spring training action. So when we pick this up next week, we're going to be talking a lot more spring training. Now that we're going to have a lot of info once pitchers and catchers report. One thing I will ask you is, are you watching the Super Bowl tonight?
Most likely, yes.
Begrudgingly, he says.
Yeah, I just don't care. It's not even because I don't have a dog in the show. I just don't care. I really don't. I don't know. Andy Reid's already won it. Mahomes has already won it. I'm excited for the energy of the new coach and what he brings to, like, he seems to fit in well with all the Philly fans and all the players, and so it's the team or the coach and the team all matching the same energy. I don't think Mahomes is beatable yet in the Super Bowl, even though with that leg injury that he had, he's been given 2 weeks to rest that leg. I think they're just going to be too strong. Now, again, going against the number one defense in Philly, it's going to be a great game. I do think that, but I don't think Kansas City loses. But I also don't care.
the apathy is very present.
Yes.
But I'll say this, bringing it back to baseball for a hot second.
Sure.
That fan base, that Philly fan base, is having a hell of a year.
Yes, they are. I mean, they just are. Between the Eagles and who else won?
The Phillies. Well, the Phillies, they just got to the World Series.
They almost won.
They had a stellar offseason or stellar postseason.
Yeah. So, it's fun to be a Philadelphia fan right now.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could say the same. But we're kind of thinking about the positives here. We're going to spring training, and I don't know about you, Romanelli. I just to kind of wrap up the spring training predictions talk for a moment here. What I love about baseball more than anything is that year to year, we could talk about projections. We could talk about hopes and dreams and wishes and things that are going to go wrong and things that are going to fail. At the end of the day, we don't know, and every year brings something different. And that's what I love about this sport is every year is a different story with different things that are going to happen. And it's a surprise every step of the way. And that is why I'm so excited for this season.
Me too. Every year is a different, and there's probably 20 storylines from each side of the town that we don't even know exist yet. So,
yeah,
excited to see those play out. Excited for the breakout players for each team. Excited to see somebody that you didn't know all of a sudden come onto the scene and not only make a name for himself, but I'll give you an example. I have Mervis as a potential Rookie of the Year candidate. If he comes up in time, gets enough at bats, he may not win it. We'll see. But yeah, there's a lot of storylines yet to be played out. So really, really excited.
Absolutely. I'm definitely lucky. I get to be down here where pitchers and catchers report. I'm actually 25 minutes from Lakeland, Florida, which is where the Detroit Tigers host their spring training, have their spring training facility. So it's taking everything in my power not to go say hi to Javi Baez and ask him what the hell he's doing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened with him. But anyway, folks, before we wrap up today, a couple reminders. So we're getting a lot of views and a lot of listens just across all of our platforms. And we appreciate you so much for that. What I will say is you need to definitely subscribe. And where's the sign? There it is in all its glory. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can actually watch the podcast, watch our faces for better or for worse. And of course, if you like the audio, you can always listen to it wherever you get your podcast. But it helps us a ton when you watch our stuff, listen to our stuff, that you like, subscribe, leave a comment. So please do it all and share with all of your people out there so that we can kind of grow this network and continue to do really cool things. Speaking of really cool things, coming up here in the next few weeks, we're going to continue spring training talk, but we're also going to start planning for our first ever crosstown baseball fantasy baseball draft. So that's exciting. So be on the lookout for an announcement on that, because we would love all of you that listen and watch to participate with us, and that will be tons of fun.
Yeah.
But until next time, we appreciate you listening and tuning in here at the Crosstown Baseball Show. We will catch you next week. Go White Sox.
Go Cubs.
Take care, everybody.